International Human Resource Management. Today, our topic is about international human resource management trends and the future challenge for women's leaderships. Okay, moving to the next slide, we are question about why we focus on women's in international human resource management. Here, there are some reason or answer why we have to focus on women's leaderships. Women make up 50% of the global working age populations. Women represent only 39 of the global labor despite of making over 50% of the world's higher education graduates. Why support women's leadership in international human resource? Another question that we have to answer in this topic. First, why we concerned on women's leadership, or we want to support women's leadership because of women's leadership growth help to increase economic growth. According from the previous research, 12 trillion could be added to the global gross domestic by 2025 by closing the gender gaps. And another reason why we support for women's leadership is create talent diversity. Organizations with more diverse workforce perform better financially. And the third reason why we have to support for women's leadership is for humans' rights. Women's view and value are critical for ensuring a more prosperous and inclusive common features. Actualizing the full potential of women leads to sustainable human capital developments. Equitable work-life balance drives stronger family structures. Women can contribute their full potential to society. The expansions of women's participations contribute to the increase of gross domestic product and higher quality of life. Gross domestic product increased by 0.3%. For every 1% increase in women's education, the average gross domestic product or GDP raised about 0.3%. Gross domestic product increased by 28 trillions. If the world closes the gender gap in the workforce participations, gross domestic product will increase by 28 trillion. That is about a quarter of world's current gross domestic product and almost half of its current debts by 2025. We continue on. The expansions of women's participations contributes to the increase of gross domestic product and a higher quality of life. Quality of life, gender equality positively influence the quality of life. Men and women who live in the countries with the higher gender parity are more likely to have a higher quality of life and less likely to suffer from depressions, divorce, and become a victim of violent deaths. Champion quality of life causes. Women have been proven to work across party lines to champion issues such as parental leave and childcare, pensions, gender equality laws, and electoral reforms. Women's suffrage. 9 out of 10 countries with the highest quality of life are also among the first 25 countries to grant women's suffrage. Moving to women in leadership positions have particularly shown improved company performance. Okay, here we have three reasons or three explanations on these statements. First, positive outcomes. Women's participations contribute positively to the company's performance. Second, diversity impact on ROA. Companies with more than 30% of women on board contribute up to 8% return of asset of the company. Similar international study in 2016 Credit Success Gender 3000 report 3,400 companies worldwide have shown that companies with at least one female director yield a compound asset return of 3.5 of investor over the previous decade. There is no shortage of the qualified women to fill leadership roles. Women make up almost half of the U.S. labor force. They outnumber men in earning bachelor's and master's degree, and they are neatly on a par in getting medical and legal degrees. Yet, from corporate bedrooms to the Congress, from healthcare companies to the courts, from non-profit organizations to the universities, men are far more likely than women to raise the highest pay on the most prestigious leadership role. Despite decades of the investments in women's leadership programs, progress in advancing women has stalled or has delayed. Here, this slide shows that women in political leaderships, 30% of them in U.S. Supreme Court, 26% of them in U.S. Senate, 23% of the women's leaderships in U.S. House of Representatives, 80% in state governance, and 29% in the state legislations. Moving to the next statistic about women's leaderships in academic or women's in academic leaderships. This graph shows women's in academic leaderships. 32% are full professor. 30% of them are college presidents. 5% of them are presidents who are women of the colors, and 60% are as a medical school deans. Moving to the next statistic about women in corporate leaderships. This graph shows women in corporate leaders. 7.2% of them are Fortune 500 CEOs, 22.5% Fortune 500 board seats, 11% of them are top jobs in S&P, and 25% consist of C-suite jobs in top 1,000 companies. Moving to business women's leader, here in this slide, I show you 4 among successful business women leaders in the world. Okay, later in the next slide, I will show you in detail for each of these public figures. Indra Nooyi. Indra Nooyi is a CEO of PepsiCo. Indra Krishnamurti Nooyi is an Indian-born, naturalized American, a business executive and current chairperson and CEO of PepsiCo, the second largest food and beverage business in the world by net revenue. She hit 14th spot on the top Power Woman CEO on Forbes list for 2016. Her road to power, India's Indra's successful in the STEM field started early when she earned bachelor degrees in physics, chemistry, and mathematics from Madras Christian College in 1974, an MBA from Indian Institute of Management Calcutta in 1976. She was admitted to the Yale School of Management in 1978 and earned a master's in public and private management. Indra's landed with a Pepsi course in 1994 and was named president of CFO in 2001. She's directed the company's global strategy for more than a decade and led PepsiCo's restructuring, including a 1976 divorce teacher, the acquisitions of Tropicana in 1974, and the merge with the Quaker Oats company, which also brought Gatorade to PepsiCo. In 2006, she became a fifth CEO in PepsiCo's 44 years history, and she named the third most powerful woman in the business by Fortune in 2014. Managing a corporate family of more than 300,000 employees is no wonder Indra is considered one of the top influential leaders in the business during her career. Indra explained that she adhered to 5 C's model of leadership: competency, courage, confidence, communication skills, and compass. Indra's quotes as a leader here, she said that, "As a leader, I am talk one on myself and I raise the stand of everybody. However, I'm very caring because I want people to excel at what they are doing so that they can aspire to be me in their influence." Next, we have Ginny Rometty. Ginny Rometty or Virginia Mary. Ginny Rometty, born July 29, 1957, in American business executive who served as executive chairman of IBM after stepping down as CEO on April 1st, 2020. She previously served as a chairman, president, and CEO of IBM, becoming the first woman to head of the company. She retired from IBM on December 31st, 2020 after near 40 years career at IBM. Prior to becoming president and CEO in January 2012, she joined IBM as a system engineer in 1981 and subsequently head global sales, marketing, and strategy. While general manager of IBM's global service divisions in 2002, she helped negotiate IBM's purchase of Prince Waterhouse Corporate's IT consulting business, becoming known for her work integrating the two companies. As CEO, she focused IBM's on analytics, cloud computing, and cognitive computing systems. Remity tunes as IBM's CEO was marked by noteworthy awards, including Bloomberg's 50 Most Influential People in the World, Fortune's 50 Most Powerful Women in the Business, Time's 20 Most Important People in the Tech, and Forbes America's Top 50 Women in Tech. Her tune was also made by fierce criticism relating to executive compensation bonus, layoff, outsourcing, and precedenting over 25 consecutive quarters of revenue decline. Next successful woman leadership is Roshini Nada Malhotra. Born 1980 or 1981, is an Indian billionaire businesswoman, a chairperson of HCL Technologies, and the first woman to lead the least IT companies in India. She is only child of HCL founder and billionaire industrialist Shiva Navar. In 2019, she is ranked 54th on the Forbes World's 100 Most Powerful Women list. According to IIFL Wealth Hurun India Rich list 2019, Roshini is the richest woman in India. In 2020, she is ranked 55th on the Forbes World's 100 Most Powerful Women. She also the CEO of HCL Corporations, the holding company of all HCL Group entities. She worked in the various companies as a producer before joining HCL. Within a year of joining HCL, she was elevated as Executive Director and a CEO of HCL Corporations. She subsequently became a chairperson of HCL Technologies after her father's chief Nada stepped down. Next, we have Catherine Engelbert. Catherine Engelbert is American business executive and commissioner of Women's National Baseball Association's WNBA. Before joining WNBA, she had been with Deloitte for 33 years, including as the first female CEO from 2015 to 2019. Her experience in sport: at Lakehead, she tried out for the basketball team as a walk-on under Hall of Fame coach Muffet McGraw, and later became a team captain. She also played lacrosse and became a captain of that team as well. Catherine Albert joined Deloitte in 1986. The workers with the company until retiring in 2019. Joining WNBA later in 2016 or 2019, she credited the firm's early focus on supporting women in the workplace as being important for her career. Prior to being appointed the CEO of Deloitte in March 2015, she was the chairman of CEO of the audit subsidiary, Deloitte and Touch LLP. Other senior positions Albert held at Deloitte include National Manager Partner, Regions for Deloitte and Touch, Deputy Nation Professional Practice Director, and Financial Accounting and Reporting Service Quality Risk Manager. She named was a partner in 19 1998. On May 15, 2019, she was named the first commissioner of WNBA. Previous WNBA leaders had been entitled as president. Albert officially assumed a new role on July 17, 2019. On becoming CEO for Deloitte, this rendered Alice Engelbert the first female U.S. CEO of Big Four firms. News media outlets, including the Wall Street Journal, highlight Engelbert's appointments as cracking the glass ceiling. While serving as Deloitte CEOs, the company's revenue has increased nearly 6% year-over-year to $18.6 billion. Moving to success stories of business women leaders. In 2014, Mary Barra was the first woman CEO of the General Motors (GM's) in the auto industry, and 45% of GM's board of directors are women. One of her priorities has been embracing new technologies. In 2019, Lisa Sui is the highest paid female CEO according to the Associated Press annual report on CEO salaries. She made $58.5 million following a strong performance of the company's stock during her 5 years as CEO. Jennifer Tauber, as the Johnson & Johnson EVP Worldwide Chairman, lead the overall global strategy for pharmaceutical business, including oversees the development of the Janssen investigation COVID-19 vaccine candidate. Jennifer Tauber said that at the Janssen's, patients are at the center of everything we do. We strive to deliver transformational medicines to help people around the world healthier and happier lives. Okay, we continue on the success story of business women leaders. Besides leading Apple physical and online retail stores, Deidre O'Brien, as the SVP of Retail and People, oversees more than 130,000 employees. As the coronavirus dramatically altered the way people shop and work, she spearheads initiatives to temperature checks at the open locations and sub-site pickup. Starbucks experienced a loss for its physical third quarters as the coffee giant battle and fallout from the pandemics. Rose Brewer, as the COO, has contended both lower sales as the same city stores were closed and increased costs from the COVID-related employee benefits. In response, she has focused on building more drive-through and pick-up-only locations. Okay, next I have a question about what is the 15 biggest challenge women leaders face and how to overcome them. So you have to find more information on these questions, and it will help you to understand more about women's leadership. Moving to challenge of women's leaders. We start with a glass ceiling, structural barrier, gender stereotype and discriminations. All stereotypes because men have been leaders for so long, and the traits associated with the leadership are often thought of as masculine and not viewed as favorable when exhibited by women. Potential issues of sexual bias or discriminations, bias and discriminations, sexual harassment and hostile work environments, and subtle bias are still obstacles. Women of color face even further obstacles of their advancement and as a result are even less likely to move into leadership roles. Potential issue of sexual favoritisms and a multiple role at home and work. Multiple role at home and work or lack of flexibility balance work and family can be challenges that limits women from seeking the leadership role. Workplaces are still designed and dedicate all notion of male and female domestic role. Women, it takes a female to have a baby. It takes a woman to raise a child. It takes a mother to raise them correctly. And it takes a warrior to show them and how to change the world. There is a multiple role of the women at home and work. Okay, here is explanations about glass ceiling. Here's why glass ceiling may remain intact despite female leaderships. Too many glass ceilings remain unbroken. Glass ceiling an acknowledged barrier to advancement in the profession, especially affecting women and members of minorities. Example, the first female to break through the glass ceiling in engineering. Does having women in the leadership make it easier for other women to follow in their footsteps? The answer is not necessary. In summarizing one research, it can be explained that the story is often more complicated than that. There is an assumption that mere presence of women's pioneers in leadership positions long held by men will automatically break the glass ceiling, making it easier for future women to obtain those positions. But it's not that simple. The story is a little bit more complicated. If the women who take on leadership positions make it easier for future leaders to follow in their footsteps, the short answer was no. Having a woman at the having a woman at helm does not typically help subsequent female leaders, and sometimes having female predecessors can even hinder prospects for up and upcoming female leaders. If the female leader performs poorly, it makes it even harder for women to be hired in her place in the future. Exposure to the women's in leadership role typically held by men does not necessarily benefit other women. The negative effect of leadership failure is greater than the positive effect of leadership success. Oddly, even having successful female predecessors in leadership do not seem to help the chance of future women. Although it did not hurt them either. People say, oh, she's just an exceptional woman, she's unique, she's special, but it says nothing about other women. When a woman fails, people are more likely to think that the failure is a representative of all women and penalize future female job candidates. The solution to this problem is clear. As more and more women enter top rank of leadership, our perception of female leaders are bound to change. Another clear advantage of having female leaders, is they serve as a role model, motivating more women to aspire those roles. The work on role modeling says it's really important for women to see other women in these positions. It makes them think, I could actually do that. We should certainly celebrate the fact that more women are achieving top level positions, but we should also be aware that our work is not done. It's remarkable that Kim Eun has broken into the management rank in Major League Baseball. Her presence will likely inspiring more young women to pursue career in the sport. However, according to this research, the likelihood that a female general manager will be hired in the future depends on whether the Miami Marlins have a winning record next year. Male baseball managers will continue to be hired in the future, regardless of how their female predecessor performs. Okay, now we move to solutions to women's leadership barriers. How? We start with the celebrate success at work, highlight their positive impact to leadership, recognize their achievement on platforms like LinkedIn and Twitter, engage them in more bigger projects, and sponsor or advocate their mentorships. This is sourced from Proverb 2020. Solution to challenge of women's leaders. Continue. This slide has some of self-revision questions on women's leaderships. First question is, what is the most common challenge faced by women's leaders in the business world? Discuss your answer with relevant example. Next question is, men leaders can always perform better than their women's counterparts. To what extent do you agree with this? Discuss. And the last question, it could help you to understand more about women's leadership in international human resource is, how can women's leaders stand out in the business environments? So discuss. Here are additional reading material about women's leadership in international human resource management. By clicking this link, you can get more information, knowledge, and material about women's leaderships in international human resource. That's all from me for this topic. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.